Right, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. The topic for our webinar is EPA tools to support states, quantifying emissions reductions and the health and economic co-benefits of clean energy policies. This webinar is being presented by the Clean Energy States Alliance, and we have a wonderful speaker with us today from the US EPA. Before we pass it over to them, we'll go over a few very quick webinar logistics. We have updated to a new platform of GoToWebinar. We thank you in advance for your patience as we get used to it, and we ask for any feedback that you might have, for good or for bad, in the post-webinar survey or via email. We'd greatly appreciate that. As always, everyone is in listen-only mode except for our panelists. We encourage you to submit your questions and your comments via the questions panel. And you can read a bio of our speaker today in the materials section, formerly the handout section in the old version of GoToWebinar. If you'd like to turn on automated captions, you can. I can't vouch for whether they will butcher acronyms or other nouns, but those are generally pretty good, so you can turn those on. And a final note, this webinar is being recorded. We will send you an email with a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides within about 48 hours, within a day or two. So now I will pass it over to my colleague, Warren Leon. Warren is CISA's Executive Director, and he is moderating today's webinar.
Hey, Sam, thanks very much. Let me tell you about CISA so you know who's running the show here. We're a national nonprofit coalition of public agencies, and most of our members are state agencies, and they include many of the most innovative, successful, and innovative public funders of clean energy initiatives in the country. And if we look at the next slide, you could see logos of all our members here. We have members in 20 states, plus the District of Columbia. You can see them here. And if we go to the next slide, we have two different projects that this particular webinar links to. One is the 100% Clean Energy Collaborative, where we assist states that have set 100% clean energy goals, and we do a newsletter, we do various webinars for them, and then we have another initiative, which you'll see in the next slide, which is our IRA and BIL implementation initiative, where we help states learn about federal funding opportunities. We provide resources, guidance, and do events to help them capitalize on the billions of dollars in federal clean energy opportunities. And states, to take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law, are very interested in analyzing their energy system, knowing what impacts different policies can provide. If we go to our next slide, EPA can be very helpful to us on that, and we're going to hear about a range of tools that could be really useful to states. And our speaker today is going to be David Tancabel, and he's a senior utility policy analyst at EPA, and he's in the State and Local Climate and Energy Program, which develops technical and policy analysis to support state and local governments. His work focuses especially on utility policy and state utility regulation. Prior to joining EPA, he was director of the Maryland Power Plant Research Program, where he worked closely with project developers, utilities, and the Maryland Public Service Commission. Let me turn it over to David, and I'll be back when we come to the question period.
Great, thanks, Warren. All right, here we go. Yeah, so as Warren said, I'm David with the State and Local Climate and Energy Branch. I've been with EPA for a couple of years now, and as Warren said, I came from state government, so I really kind of approach a lot of my work with that perspective. I worked a lot with the State Energy Office and different agencies, including transportation, Maryland Department of the Environment, and really advised a lot of those agencies on how to deal with the Public Service Commission of Maryland. So that's kind of the perspective I bring to it. And here to talk to you about what our program does and the resources we offer states, local governments, and their stakeholders that are free and hopefully, here we go. Let's see. Oops. Am I able to move it forward here? There we go. All right, so this is kind of an overview of the resources available from the state, local, and tribal stakeholders. And as Warren said, we provide data, analysis, we create a lot of long-form resources for state and local governments to create, implement, evaluate their own energy policies. So I'd say one of the things I really want everyone to take away from this presentation today in this discussion is that we are a free resource. That's what our program is. And so please use us. If you have questions on any of these resources, other resources, you need to be put in the direction of something that we don't offer, we can help you find what you need. So please use us. You'll have my contact information. But this is all we do. We're not a regulatory part of the EPA. We are there to assist state and local governments as they create their own energy policies. And on this screen, you can see some of the resources that we do provide. In the green on the left, there are some of our inventory tools. In the orange, which will be my focus today, are some of our analytic tools, such as Avert, Cobra, ESIST, and BPK, and I'm going to go over those later. And then on the right side, you'll see some outreach and communication resources in purple. And at the bottom are some of our long-form resources. So this, when you get these slides, these are all hyperlinked to each of these resources. So you can kind of click around and see what's useful. But again, you can always just reach out to us and we can help find what the right resource for you. So, one of the things, again, my perspective, having come from state and working a lot with the PSC, is tools that can help states and stakeholders when they are working with the Public Service Commission or Public Utility Commission. And if you talk to the NARUC, the National Association of Utility Regulatory Commissioners, their national organization, utility regulators, PUCs, PSCs, the first thing they'll tell you is we are economic regulators. We do not regulate the environment. And so you need to really speak their language when working with them. And that's one of the things our tools can do by monetizing benefits through defensible methodologies, for example. So we'll get into that a little bit here shortly. So, and again, I'm gonna touch on Avert, Cobra. Avert, which is our avoided emissions generation tool, quantifies emissions from impacts to energy efficiency, renewable energy, electric vehicles, energy storage was just recently added. Cobra, which then estimates the health impacts and monetizes those. And then ESIST, which is a energy efficiency impact scenario tool. And I'll cover those in shortly. So starting off, let's see here if I can move this again. Here we go, Avert. As I said, this AVERT stands for Avoided Emissions and Generation Tool. I know emissions maybe is not the most interested of everyone on this call, and probably people that are working in this space have been working with emissions for a while. But as EPA, our mission is to protect human health and the environment, and that really starts with the emissions, and that's where we're starting here. And a couple of our tools can utilize the outputs of this tool. So, Avert is as it says here, it's free, easy to use. You can analyze different policies and programs, energy efficiency, renewable energy, energy storage plus solar, electric vehicles. I guess it's not should be added on there, but there are multiple formats, both Excel and web editions, which has some different functionalities. And the output of this resource is it estimates your hourly marginal emission impact based on different criteria pollutants. And it's updated annually just completed an update in April, the newest data, and some new functionality was added. So again, on our website, you can see the list, Excel file of many different citations of different studies, of filings that have used AVERT. And you can see here just a couple of those on what it can be used for. So, modeling impacts, again, of the different energy efficiency policies and the greenhouse gas and criteria pollutants emission analysis. So when it comes to emissions quantification, there we go. So, sorry, I'm trying to get this to load. I guess I wanted it to all load at once, but that didn't change. So, there are many options in which you're going to quantify emissions impacts of policy. Some that are, less sophisticated to very sophisticated. That's what we do here, going from left to right. So, your basic method, eGrid, it's a single annual value you can use. And it's pretty simple, straightforward. You can use to quantify your emission. Just label your emission rates. On the far right, a much more sophisticated method includes capacity expansion models that incorporate fuel data, economic impacts of the different policies that are much more dynamic. AVERT was designed to be relatively simple, yet not the most sophisticated. So it fits in that Goldilocks zone right in the middle. It's simple enough that novices can use it, but also has the functionality that those who are well versed in this can actually manipulate and update specific data that they want to change to get more accurate results than the baseline data, and give it a little more functionality. So it's very well suited to provide the right level of sophistication. And so, what does AVERT do, and how does it do it? Well, it uses marginal emissions. And what are marginal emissions? So your average emissions, right? During the day, generators are turned on and off all the time. This, what generators are turned on is considered your dispatch or loading order. And we can calculate the average emissions. If you look on the left, that column, if you add up all the emissions from those and divide, that's our average emission, right? By stacking all those generators. The marginal emission rate is what we're interested in, right? The next increase in demand isn't going to be met by the average emission. It's going to be met by the next dispatchable generation. So what is that change, and how's it going to be met? And that's the marginal emission rate. And that is what AVERT uses. So here's another example of that to quickly show. Now you can see the second graph there shows a cutout of what the emissions that would have occurred without an energy efficiency or renewable energy policy. It reduced what generation needed to be dispatched. Fossil generation needed to be dispatched because of these energy efficiency or renewable energy generations. And so that is the marginal impact. So that really shows you what is being cut away and how AVERT is calculating that change in emissions from the policy. It is calculating what that cutaway would be. And so to clarify for AVERT, what it considers as dispatchable on the fossil side is anything over 25 megawatts. So if the fossil generation is less than 25 megawatts, it is actually not modeled within AVERT. We don't have that data on hourly dispatch, but we do for everything over 25 megawatts. So that's what's included in AVERT. So it is one of the limitations of the resource. And when you're using AVERT, it groups into 14 different regions, and these are based on the different balancing authorities. And in reality, these regions are not completely are not completely independent, and that's kind of just the reality of it. But that is the way it is modeled within Avert. Um, Again, one of the nice things about Avert is it allows you to add some sophistication. So if you want to expand beyond the region you're working in, you can download the regional files and adjust those. And if you know power plants that will be decommissioned that is not in the data, or will be added that is not in the data, you can also go into the Excel file behind each region and add that power plant, or zero out that power plant in 2 years because or it will be shut down in 2 years, or you can model what it will be if that is shut down in 2 years. So that is some of the functionality of Avert. And again, or you can just take the base data and utilize it without manipulating anything behind the scenes. So, and the output of Revert, let's see here, I think, this is just a couple screenshots. So on the left screenshot, we have just this is the web version. After you select, I think I selected Georgia, and it's going to ask you what policy are you trying to model. And so you can pick your policy, and once you choose that, it will give you another range of options. If you're doing solar, is this utility solar? This PV? Are your energy storage plus solar? EVs? What are you replacing? How many ICEs are you replacing? What region? And then on the right, beyond the output of the criteria pollutant changes that it provides you in a table form and can really be adjusted. And if there is interest, we are happy to meet with groups. If you are having issues, we've done demos for other groups. Where Colby, my colleague on the call, just did a demo yesterday for some of the CPRG folks. For some of you on this call may be involved in that and may have seen his presentation. So we're happy to help. But on the right, it shows this is actually from the manual, but this shows the output graph from the Excel version which has a mapping function, and shows I think this is the change. It's a little hard on my screen, but the change in CO2 tonnage based on the policy that they modeled. And so you can see there the dots are the different power plants that are being impacted by the change in policy that was implemented in that scenario. So that is our free, easy to use, robust. Okay, I didn't think I had that one yet, but that's fine. So again, those are some of the limitations of Avert on there. It really is a near-term resource, and it's over 5 years. It is generally not recommended to be used for analysis past the 5-year mark. Right, Avert looks at what is the landscape of the energy generation now, and in 5 years it's going to look a lot different. So if you're looking at what the impact is in 8 years from now, think about where the grid was 8 years ago, and it's going to be, again, this is not a expansion model, which is more dynamic and can adjust, but so that's why it's limited to within a 5-year window. So that kind of concludes the Avert side. I know it's a quick, but it is, again, it's free, it's easy to use, it is peer reviewed, robust enough to stand up to scrutiny, but a novice can walk through it, and the tool will walk you through it itself. It will give you directions both on the web and the Excel version on what your next step is, and so. All right, here we go. So our next tool is Cobra, and I'm sure a lot of the folks are interested in this. So Cobra, the acronym is pretty long, the Co-Benefits Risk Assessment and Health Screening and Mapping Tool. So it's going to estimate and map the air quality and health impacts of energy efficiency, renewable energy policies. But really more than that, if you have modeled an electric vehicle policy within a VERT or an energy storage policy, energy storage plus solar, the web version of a VERT has a simple button that you can use, and it will directly input those results into Cobra. So the web version makes it really easy to do your emissions analysis, and then you can review those emissions analysis, assess them, and then there's a one button functionality to push all those results into a VERT. And then a VERT is going to provide your health benefit estimate and compare, where you can compare and rank policy options. And it's going to provide you a mapping function of those health outcomes as well. So let's see. So a VERT works by takes the changes in PM 2.5, translate those into health impacts, and then monetizes those health impacts. And so, for example, an output maybe if you're of your renewable energy policy that you modeled in a VERT, you hit your one button, it went to Cobra. Cobra's output is going to show you that policy based on those emissions changes, is going to result in 33 avoided cases of bronchitis. That equates to $41,000 benefit. And it's going to do that for every single health outcome that it has assessed. And it will give you a total benefit from that initial policy you made. And it's also going to map those benefits. Cobra uses air dispersion models, and so it is clear showing where the benefits are occurring, both the maps, I will get here 1 second. And it will map the output of the emissions changes and the health impact and the monetization. So here you can see a couple of different scenarios that were used, the two different mapping functions. And this is what Cobra will show you based on your policy you modeled. Here are the monetized health impacts of those policies, the darker being a higher value of health impact. And it will provide you that dollar value both on the chart and in the table form. And here are some of the tables that Cobra outputs. And again, this is peer-reviewed tool that we use, and it has been, let's see, I will show you here. Again, cited in many different studies, research, universities, different NGOs. You can see here the American Lung Association uses a VERT every year for their EV report. You can see a couple others from University of Wisconsin, but these are all different research that use a VERT for its monetization of its health benefits. So it is a robust tool, and again, very easy to use especially if you want to use a VERT to analyze your emissions. You do not have to use a VERT if you use a capacity expansion model and you know what your changes are from multiple different policies, or our goal is to reach X amount of change in criteria pollutants, then you can just put in those emissions reductions directly into Cobra, and it will provide you the changes to human health and then the monetization of those changes. But again, it is easy with the web edition of VERT to move those results over and get those monetized health benefits. All right, so the third resource I wanted to talk about today, and this has quite a few pieces to it, is the Energy Savings Impact Scenario Tool, or ESIST. Excuse me. ESIST is an Excel-based tool for analyzing energy savings, costs, multiple impacts, including energy burden, looking at demographics, all from customer-funded energy efficiency programs. So it combines, I think, 14 peer-reviewed data sets and puts them all into one place so that your analysis is much less time-consuming, much less resource-intensive, and it's a planning tool. It is used to assess our plan A versus plan B versus plan C. What are the impacts and savings, costs again, how many people we are reaching with these programs. There's 3 key features I always talk about with ESIS. I think the first and one of the most important, I think, is the study area. So you can look at across the country, you can look at state, you can look at county, you can look at a utility. You can look down to a utility service territory. So a specific utility you can look at. You can look at just commercial customers of utility. You can look at just investor-owned utilities in Minnesota. So it has a lot of functionality in choosing your study area and what you want to study. So you're not taking the whole state. I'm just looking at my municipal utility. I'm just looking at my investor-owned utility. I'm looking at all utilities or all the utilities under in a certain state or across the country. So that is one of the key features of ESIS. Another key feature, like our many other tools, is it's very flexible from novice to advanced. If you are a novice, again, our tool will walk you through each step and what your input is required for each step, and it will explain that input each time. Whoops, sorry. Oh yeah. So, and then also the multiple benefits, and I guess so the multiple benefits, and again, part of this speaks, as I talked about earlier, that economic regulator language. So there are monetized health benefits, and it really lays out all the different benefits from, again, these different scenarios that you're creating. I mean, energy savings, and you can see them down there at the bottom at the energy savings, energy efficiency costs, avoided emissions, public health impacts, energy burden, which I will touch on in a little bit, and peak demand impacts. Again, a key piece. I also want to flag something that while ESIS is focuses primarily on energy use and energy efficiency savings in the electricity sector, so we do have a standalone pilot version for the gas sector, and it allows users to estimate, energy efficiency or their gas saving measures on the gas side. There's more limited data sets, so there's more limited functionality. You don't get all the same functionality as the electric side, but that functionality differences are explained in the user manual. One of the things we are using it as a pilot is being able to use the gas version and the electricity version in conjunction to model some electrification scenarios and zeroing out the gas use while changing the electric side and using that to model an electrification scenario and still get all those multiple benefit outputs that we were looking at, whether it's public health impacts, avoided emissions, energy savings, energy burden. So that's something that we are working on. And if you're interested in that, you can reach out. We have had people reach out, and we've done one-on-ones with the gas pilot program and helping them work through some electrification scenarios using it. Now, this slide shows the kind of the flow chart for ESIS, and again, it looks a little intimidating, I think, from this view. But again, each step along the way is an explanation of what the inputs are and what the default settings are. And you can keep moving forward with default settings, or you can create your own growth rate if you don't want to use the cumulative average growth rate. There's just a lot of different settings that if you're an expert in energy efficiency, you will be able to get through the scenario you want. And if you are a novice, you're going to be able to compare easily a few different scenarios really quickly. So the whole point is just being able to quickly run through it, provide some outputs, and then realize, all right, these are kind of our key pieces that are changing a lot of the outputs, and then focusing on those. So see the next slide here. It's going to be really busy. I just wanted to show some of the output from ESIS. And again, we talked about this. So this is some of the output you're going to get. And it looks like a lot, but I just wanted to show that you're going to get a lot of data because you're just running a scenario, and it pulls together these 14 different peer-reviewed data sets, LBNL, EPA. U.S. Census Bureau, and it's going to provide this data. It's going to provide you, the energy savings, your incremental savings, your cumulative savings. It's going to provide you how much did this energy efficiency program cost? What were the first year costs? What is the levelized cost of saved energy over the expected life of the efficiency measures? And it's going to break down. Here's how much the utility, the cost to the utility for this program. Here's how much for the participants. And again, going back to emissions, this will provide you with your avoided emissions for the scenario you set up in terms of carbon dioxide, PM 2.5, SOx and NOx, and then ozone as well. So you're still going to get your emissions estimates from this scenario. And again, we consider this a default, the default marginal emission rates in ESIS are meant to be used as kind of like a screening level, is what so again, these are really designed to compare different scenarios to move forward from, and then you can use, once you've decided on a kind of a scenario you want, you can maybe go then to avert and put that in and get a much more granular understanding of the emissions impacts, and then move that over to Cobra, and you're going to get those health benefits and those monetized health benefits. But ESIS can really help you decide, all right, how do we want to design this program? And again, it does give you an estimate of the public health benefits, so without having to go into Cobra. So it will give you that to be able to compare different energy efficiency scenarios. One of the outputs I want to talk about in a minute is the energy burden impact, and I'll get to that in a second because that's one of the outputs. But there is a demographic information. So if you are utilizing, this municipal utility, and there are all the IOUs in the state, who is that impacting? And based on the U.S. Census data, it's going to tell you, who exactly is this energy efficiency program reaching. And then lastly, and one of the things I know a lot of people are interested in is, while we don't have tools that directly link into reliability and resilience and the economic, but peak demand is one of the drivers of economic costs of the distribution system. Peak demand impacts a lot of our reliability, and ESIS will show you, based on your different scenarios, what are the peak demand impacts. And so it's going to provide both a system peak and a cumulative peak savings based on your scenario. So, our peak demand is what drives a lot of costs. It impacts reliability, and this resource is going to show you what the impact of those energy efficient scenarios is on that peak demand. Let's see. So I'm going to step back again and go back to this energy burden module. So this really shows the economic impact to customers of these energy efficiency programs. And again, speaking that language of utility regulators and a language of a lot of other policymakers and the economic terms, but this is direct impact to customers. So we often describe the energy burden module as kind of the tool within the tool. And a lot of users have used ESIS just for the energy burden module, or not just for, but that is what they go directly to, and you can do that. And here kind of shows a little bit more of the workflow in that model. And again, the resource will really walk you through that on the different screens as it steps through. So the energy burden module will allow you to estimate the level of investment needed in the energy efficiency program, both in the EE program and say you're having direct monetary assistance for low-income customers. That can be an input into this energy burden module, and it can tell you, how much of that energy efficiency program costs and how much direct monetary assistance is needed to lower our low-income household energy burden to equal that of non-low-income household burden. And it will give you an estimate of how much will help you estimate how much that's going to cost, both again in terms of EE and direct monetary assistance. So you can design programs to close the gap between the energy burden of low-income households and non-low-income households. Your inputs you can see here are, what is your energy burden target? We don't want anyone low-income, non-low-income to have less than a 7% or more than a 7% energy burden. Each month we're going to reach 5% of the customers. And every month we have budgeted up to $25 a month in direct monetary assistance. And so with those inputs and the energy efficiency program you have outlined in the previous steps, it's going to tell you this is how much your program costs. This is how much your customers are saving per year. You reached 30% of all households in that area of your study. And most importantly, the energy burden for low-income customers is X, 9%. You didn't reach your target, or the energy burden was 4%. You exceeded your target, and you can go back and then change some of your inputs. And all right, now what is my energy burden if I lowered my monthly assistance or I raised it a little bit? So you can really iterate through this module and keep adjusting to try and determine what economic benefits you want to have, and understanding what the costs are of those programs, and how those and the impacts directly to households, and direct economic impact. So that kind of sums up the three free resources we have, and I'm going to leave some time so we can go back and touch on them. There are a couple things I wanted to touch on that I think will be very useful to the folks on this call. One is, in preparation, or as we did a lot of work on these climate pollution reduction grants, or CPRG, EPA put together a quantified climate action measures directory. So we analyzed all state and local climate action plans from 2018 to 2024. We created two separate databases, a state and a local. And you can go in and look at, what was the measure that they utilized in their climate action plan. Was it energy efficiency, electrification, EVs, community solar? What tool did they use to quantify those emission benefits? And what state was it in? And then link to their climate action plan. So there is a link here. I will say that there is a lot more research and analysis coming. So we are doing analysis on this is on the climate action plans that were published, I think through midway through 2023. So we are doing work on looking at all of the CPRG applications, and within those applications there were measures that were quantified, and we're doing that in this analysis on the CPRG applications. And so you'll be able to see the different measures and what did they use to quantify them. What did this state use, or this local government use to quantify these emissions? It'll give you an idea of the different models out there. And again, a lot of the models used are proprietary and have high costs. We think our resources are robust enough to stand up to scrutiny, and they are free, and we're always happy to help. So just know that there is more analysis coming on the CPRG side on emissions quantification of measures. And hitting on the theme that Warren talked about at the beginning of funding opportunities, I wanted to let you know about how to find out more about these resources, including funding opportunities through EPA and DOE that we try and highlight. If I can get to my next slide. There we are. So we have 3 different newsletters that you can sign up for. The state and local climate and energy news, and the one on the right here is an example of the funding opportunities newsletter. I think this one was from mid-July. And anywhere from 15 to 45, 50 different funding opportunities across federal government you can find on there. And again, you can see a lot of EPA resources at the bottom some grant writing resources. So if you're interested, please sign up for these. And we do have a webinar series update. You'll get information on updates we are doing to Avert and Cobra, eSyst, other tools that were on that screen that we didn't talk about. You'll get updates on those when they're doing webinars for the new updates and discussion. My colleague that's here leads a lot of those. So please sign up for the newsletter. Again, our contact information is on there too. That can help you get in touch with us for any further questions on the tools. I think actually the newsletters, if I can move forward, it's hard for me to see this. Actually, I don't think that our link for the newsletters is on here. But again, here are a lot of our resources. These are all linked as you put your mouse over each of them. So you'll have these slides. We're happy to help with any of them. And again, if there's data you need, you don't have, if there's analysis you need, that is good for us to hear. So a lot of the features within these tools, say energy storage plus solar, or working on heat pumps, something along those lines. We add functionality based on demand signal. So if you are needing analysis on something and it sounds like it's something that we could, add to our eSyst or Avert or Cobra tools, we take that into account. We are not building these tools for ourselves. We're building them for you all to use them and that's what we're here to assist you. So if there's analysis you want or need, let us know, and we that's helpful for us, and we may be able to find that for you or help you with it in the meantime. So again, some of our longer form, like clean energy financing, we just have a lot of different tools that we can help state, local, and tribal governments and their stakeholders. So I'm glad I left a few minutes here, 15 minutes or so, for any questions we have on any of the tools. Happy to help, and again, we're happy to follow up and set up any one-on-one assistance we can provide. So.
Hey, David, thanks very much. Yes, those tools do seem like they should be quite useful to a wide range of states. I have a few questions, but folks should know if they type in additional questions, there's a good chance we'll be able to get to some of those as well. One general question is, do you have a sense of what share of the folks who use Avert or Cobra end up asking for your one-on-one help, and what share of folks just find that they could just do it on their own and don't really need any technical assistance from you folks?
I don't have numbers, and maybe my colleague would correct me if I'm wrong, but the vast majority understand people that download it utilize it. And again, they are pretty straightforward. There are technical manuals for each of them that will walk you through, but each tool essentially will walk you through it on its own, and it's not looking at that's something too complicated that you can't understand. So it again, they're built for ease of use, and it's really the expert users, if you will, that need to get into the manual, because it shows you, all right, I want to adjust this data that's behind this analysis. And so, but for the novice user, it's actually a lot easier. And I think that's the expert users that are looking for manipulating some of the data that's behind it and not using the default settings. And that's where, but yeah, the vast majority are able to usually make it through.
Good. Another question has to do with the new energy burden tool that you showed. To what extent has that been used already by folks, and has there been any feedback on how useful the results seem to be, or whether folks have experienced problems with trying to use it?
I have had a discussion on this module with quite a few different groups, um, a couple subgroups at just different organizations such as ACEEE and NARUC doing some energy justice roundtables. The response from so many folks has been just that why didn't we have this earlier? And but I have not actually seen the direct analysis. Again, a lot of ESIST is designed to create, 3 or 4 different scenarios, and then moving forward with 2 of those to do a more in-depth analysis. So it really is designed to help you. Okay, here's the ballpark cost we're going to need to get these energy burdens down, and here's what that program A is probably the one we want, and we're going to move forward with that. So it helps you narrow down what you want to go then use or um, a different model or a resource to get that more granular um, um, analysis. And yeah, I'll also say it's still fairly new. Although technically it's been out for a little while, but it really has been about just over a year that we've been really showing folks how to use it. And I think one of the things that people find, not just that there is a module to look at energy burden, but the fact that ESIST you can go down to IOUs in a state or a specific municipality utility, and look at the the energy burden of that utility, and so the granularity of ESIS being able to go down to that level is really unique, and I think it's hard to because energy burden can change so much even within a state and different utility service territories. So but that's the feedback we've gotten. But again, I think a lot of people have used it to do their screening, which is what it's for, and then move forward with analysis on those their 1 or 2 scenarios that they find has kind of won out.
Good. And in terms of using AVERT and looking at emissions, is it going to be significantly more complicated for folks in a state that have participate in more than one RTO where their state is divided into 2 regions? Does that complicate matters, or does AVERT somehow compensate for that?
So Texas has 4 regions in AVERT. Yeah, probably a large percent of the impact is going to be in ERCOT, but it is in others. I think South Carolina has 2 regions, but you're going to want to look at the impact in if the state has multiple regions, you're going to want to look at the impact across both those regions, and yeah, and I think this is an important question, and actually I'm gonna see if my colleague Colby is still on, if he wants to turn on his mic and give a more
Sure.
accurate answer to that. Thanks, Colby.
Hi, David. Hi, Warren. Yeah, it depends on the scenario that you're running. If you're looking at a statewide policy that you expect to have impacts in all parts of the state, then you're going to have to run the model the number of times that that state is in the regions that it sits in. So for something like Texas, you'll have 4 different runs of AVERT. You'll get 4 different answers, but you'll add them together to get the total impact. This is where understanding where your load impacts are occurring might help narrow down what your analysis might look like. So if for whatever reason the scenario is only looking at ERCOT, then sure, you can just do your analysis in ERCOT. But if it is a generalized statewide analysis, then you're going to have to do it for each of the regions that the state sits in.
Good. And I want to ask about, you, David, talked before about the fact that EPA is looking at how different climate action plans that states have produced under the climate pollution reduction grant programs have quantified their impacts. is what you're doing is just pulling out the pieces from those different reports, or are you making comparisons using a vert, or are you doing anything? Is it strictly just pulling the information out from those different reports that have been done?
Yeah, it is. It's really an inventory, and for a couple reasons. One, the um, again, understanding what are people using, that's helpful
Yeah.
for everyone,
Okay.
but also not just for what are they using for quantification. There's been a lot of questions on what are examples of measures that were done for general environmental justice communities, because maybe there's some innovative things that three or four plans had or applications had that we weren't thinking about, and so really inventorying what different measures there are in many of the different areas that CPRG required action, and also inventorying how did they do their quantifications. Those different areas, and it may take some time, but it is in moving forward. Let's put it that way. So.
Okay, good. Um, Somebody asked, are there fees associated with scheduling a one-on-one with you?
No fees. No, we are here to work with state and local governments and their stakeholders. So reach out. And each of the tools has their own website, which has some of the trainings on there. You can watch some old webinars. Some of them have some demos. And there's also a generic email for each tool that can get, if you have a specific, but don't hesitate to just send me an email, and we can help you out as well. So.
Good. Here's a specific question we had related to California. Can we, this person wanted to know whether they'd be able to study the utility bill savings impact of load shifting in California using eSys. And their particular question, does the tool incorporate time of use rates of different utilities?
Was not incorporating time of use rates. Um, Sorry, what was the question on load shifting?
They want to know whether they could use eSys to measure the impacts of load shifting,
uh,
but to do that, they would need to understand different utilities' time of use rates.
that's a good question. So again, this would be something where I would have, unless Colby knows off the top of his head. So there's a lot of data behind these resources, and almost everything, all the data under ESYS. It's an Excel-based tool. Um, the data is there, and I'm not sure if the load can be adjusted on that data, and I would have to anyway. So.
Well,
Uh,
I'll ask that this person, if they decide they want to pursue it, they should contact you.
yeah,
And
please
here's a
do. And
question from somebody who had a specific problem. They were trying to do data transfer from Avert to Cobra, and they said using the web version, it worked well, but they weren't able to get the data to transfer from Avert to Cobra using the desktop version. It seemed to stall out indefinitely. Do you have any advice on that?
um, no, well, yeah, I'm not sure what the specific issue was, but yes, again, on the web version, which has some different functionality, yeah, it's really easy. It's a one button, and you're there. It will load it in there. And then on the web version, you're going to save that output, and then go into the Cobra and upload your version. But yeah, if you email us directly or email the Cobra website, there should be a Cobra email with the issue. We can try and help you get that fixed. So.
Good. And do you have any advice for somebody who wants to use these tools not at the state level, but at the level of a municipality or a county, say?
Yeah, you can avert goes down to the county level, so does Cobra, and ESIS goes down to, yeah, again, a specific utility service territory. So the granularity is there for with these resources.
Great. Well, that takes care of all the questions we've gotten up till now. Um, is there any last words you want to say before we go?
Oh yeah, again, please, like I said, we're a resource, so please use us, reach out, and let us know what you need, and that helps us build what you need. So if we don't know about it, we can't move it forward. So understanding where the needs are is a very important thing for us.
Hey, well, thanks for making the time to do this. I'm sure you'll be getting inquiries from some of the folks on this call because there are lots of ways these tools can be very helpful to folks as they plan out their clean energy programs. Thanks to everybody for showing up today, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars from the Clean Energy States Alliance. Thanks now.